Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Art, Games, and Tech. My name is Gilbert Matos, and today we'll cover vertically moving platforms in Gamemaker Studio 2, among other things, to accomplish this task. The topics covered in this video are parenting, vertically moving platform mechanics, clamping values, instance place 3-in-1 purpose, and things to consider with moving platforms. So, let's take a look at the demo. Alright, so here's the demo. We can jump onto platforms just fine. You can jump off of them. As you can see, the transition is fairly smooth. So you're able to jump up and down, fall through platforms with the greatest of ease. So you can see, if you're going up, you can drop right through them. If it is going down, you can do the same thing. You don't have to worry about anything else. So this is what you guys are going to be able to get, and we're going to be able to do by the end of this video. So the next thing that we're gonna start doing is we're gonna want to talk about parenting. And there's no better way of teaching you about parenting than showing you. So you don't have to do this, but I'll do it so you can see. The first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new object. There's gonna be a clone of the player. So it's gonna be object clone, right? And then we're gonna assign it a sprite. So right here, I created one for it already, so you don't have to do that. And this, again, for example purposes. So here you have this button that says parent. When you click on that, you need to select an object that's going to be the parent, obviously. So you look for the player, in this case, right here, boom, the player. And as you can see, all of the events of the player are here. You can access them, but you cannot do anything else with it. You cannot change anything because, again, this is the players. So you see that? So you see there, you can access them, but you cannot change them, which is good. That's how parenting works. So you basically inherit their traits. And in this case, the traits are the events and the code. And some other things, you do not inherit the sprite unless you tell it so. For example, I have my own sprite. The player has his own sprite, right? That is something that we do not inherit. Now, if we were drawing a sprite through code, anything that is done through code is going to be inherited, okay? So now that is done, right? We already have the clone object, blah, blah, blah. So let's go back into the room and let's drop the clone into the room, okay? So let's just minimize this. The clone is already selected. You just hold Alt, and you can see that you have the clone right here. So we can drop him somewhere around here. We can have as many as we want. We're just gonna have it like this too, just to make it look a little hectic. But that's pretty much it. So again, you don't have to drag this here. You can just press and hold Alt, and you're automatically gonna get one. So let's run the game. So now that we're here, so you can see the clones move along with the player. They do exactly what the player does because, again, we're controlling the player and we're controlling the clone, basically. So you can see this is not the way you should handle, like clones of the player, by the way, but it's actually kind of nice. So as you can see, it works right off the bat, no problems whatsoever. It's just gonna imitate whatever the player does, and that's pretty much it. It's gonna move off left and right, and that is it. So we already saw that, and we should be good to go. Now let's go back to coding. Okay, so let's get rid of the clone. Let's get rid of the clone inside the room because we don't want that. Okay, so we're gonna choose this to select our instances while holding control. We can choose more than one, so we only have two. We deleted them, we're fine. Now let's go back into coding. So now the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to create a new object, and that's going to be our object vertical platform. So we're going to call it OV platform, like so. Great. So we're going to assign a sprite. I already created one, so you can assign it whatever you want. And now we're going to create, before we do anything else, we're going to assign a parent to it. So we go ahead, jump through platform, but as you can see, we didn't inherit anything. How come? Well, that's because the platform doesn't have any events, right? We do have code inside the player checking for the jump through platform. So the code that we use to check with that platform is going to work just the same with this other platform because it's a child of that. Okay, so I hope that is clear enough. So now let's create two events. We're going to create the create event and step event. Okay, now we're going to go into the create event and we're going to create a bunch of instance variables. Okay, so we're going to do the direction of the platform, dir equals, we're going to choose this, we're going to use this function called choose, and we're going to set it to -1 and 1, and I'll explain that in a second. And then after that, we're going to do the speed of the platform is going to be 2. You can assign it to whatever you want. 2 works really fast. So the platform, I mean, with 2, it moves, fast enough for me. 4 or above, it's moving really, really fast. Okay, so, and then we assign a vertical speed. So we can say vSpeed. Now let me put a disclaimer right here. I'm using vSpeed. For clarity's sake, you should not, you can use that, but to make things a lot easier to debug, right? We need to make sure that our variables are not called the same regardless of what instance runs them. I do it myself for my own projects. For your own sake, I'm just going to say P, would say underscore vSpeed. Let's call it that to differentiate it a lot better. Distraction and step event. We're going to create a couple of local variables. So we're going to say var, well, let's call this y offset equals sprite width divided by 2. And I'll explain that in a second. So another var, we're going to create another variable, and that is going to be collision up equals place meeting x y minus ABS vSpeed, right? We don't need this parenthesis right here, so let's just delete that. And then we say O solid, right? So that's for this one. And then after that, we do basically the same thing down here. So we're gonna do var collision down, like so. And then we just need to change this to plus. And now we're checking for collisions based on our speed. So we're checking 2 pixels above the platform, right? And we're checking 2 pixels below the platform. So that's for up and that's for down. Now we need to add our offset, right? So that's the y offset. So we need to do minus y offset. And in this case, we're going to be doing plus y offset on the other portion of this. So we're going to do plus, and we're going to delete that comma right here. So again, we have an offset because we don't want just to check 2 pixels above the platform while it is moving, because the player is going to be interacting with that platform. So we need to make sure that the player does not get pushed through the solids or through anything that is supposed to be an interactable or anything else. Anything that's solid, you don't want the player going right through it. That's a bug. We don't want that. So the other thing is this offset, right, is basically half the length of the platform. Make sure that for your game, you have the right amount, like the right value for that. That's going to be really important, right? Really important. So now we move on and we make our last local variable, and that is going to be called player above, let's say. And we're going to say instance place x, y minus, right, ABS of vSpeed. And then we're going to do O player. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So let me explain why we're doing player above us. So we're doing player above, right? Because later on, we're going to need to check if the player is on top of the platform. That's one. The other reason why I'm using this is because it returns either no one or the ID of the instance. And the good thing about it is that now I don't have to do if instance exists, right? All player, like so, and then run my code to avoid any crashes or anything like that. By doing like all player the y whatever, because if the player gets destroyed while you're checking for it, right? Or let's say that if the player got destroyed and you try to check for the player and the player does not exist, the game is going to get confused. It's going to throw an error and your game is going to crash, and we don't want that. That's why we're using instance exists in this case, because we can just do if player above is not equal no one, right? That right there does two things. I mean, it does three things actually. The first one is it checks for the player above us, right? And it also checks if the player exists, because if it doesn't exist, the game is going to give you no one, right? No one equals -4. It doesn't exist. So we're checking for the player above us. We're making sure that the player exists, right? And we're also storing the ID inside of this variable, which is awesome. So right now you can say player above that y plus equal, the variable speed of the platform, like so. And I just realized that I made a mistake. So let's correct that. Let me show you something really cool. So if you do Control F, you're gonna get this search box right here. So we have a mistake, and the mistake is that instead of doing underscore vSpeed, I did just vSpeed. So the great thing about this is that you can call it, and you can see right there is gonna get selected. Everything that matches that spelling is gonna be chosen, and now you can change it to that's vSpeed, like so. And then you click this right here. It says replace all, and then replace next, meaning that if you do next, you're gonna do this, boom, and then go to the next one. But if you do all, boom, everything gets replaced. Isn't that awesome? It's pretty cool. So that's a really good tip right there. So now let's go into another portion of this, and that is gonna be we're gonna be needing this later on. So let's just leave it there. I wish we already had the beautiful update so that we could make this into a function and forget it. But anyway, so let's just keep going. Please, make it happen quick. Okay, so what the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that the platform can move. So let's assign the speed. We're gonna do the speed, underscore, remember, equals the direction times the speed, right? So that we're already doing that. But again, because we're not assigning that to anything else, we're not assigning the vSpeed to anything else, we are not gonna see the platform moving, right? So we need to do y plus equals underscore vSpeed, like so. And now, based on the first thing that we did here, so let's talk about this. So you have choose. Chooses a random value from the things that you gave it, the parameters that you gave it, right? So you have two parameters, 50-50 chance, right? So you have -1 and 1. When the game runs, this variable is going to be equal to one of those two values, right? Which is great. That means that if it is -1, then -1 times the speed is going to be -4. And if it is 1, it's going to be just the same. That means that we're going to be moving up or down. So if the speed is negative, we're going to be moving up, and if the speed is positive, we're going to be moving down. So now that we have done this, right? So we've set up the speed down here. Now what we need to do is we need to clamp the speed, the vertical speed of the platforms, because we don't want to accelerate into infinity. So we need to do underscore vSpeed equals clamp, and then you need to assign the value that you want to clamp. So in this case, it's going to be this variable underscore vSpeed, and then you have to do negative speed. That's the minimum, right? And then you have to do the maximum, which is speed, and that's pretty much it. So it's never going to go beyond beyond 2, and it's never going to go below -2. So that's great. So we already took care of that. That's the beauty of clamp. So let me see what else. So the other thing that we need to do here, if we run the game right now, you can see that the platform can already move, but there's no collisions. Let's see. Oh, we don't have the platform in here, so we need to close the game, and we need to go ahead and change and drop the platform into the room, because that's the first thing we need to do. Okay, so again, as I said, hold Alt once you have that selected and drop it in here. Drop it here, here, and here, because we want to see what's going on, okay? And here. So we run the game. What I did by mistake. So do not make that mistake, guys. It looks like I changed this and I forgot that I had done it again. So again, run the game once again, and we should be able to see our instances just moving through everything else. And that's exactly what's happening. So we can go ahead and close everything. It's fine. So at least the movement is happening. It's working, right? So that's the movement code so far. Now, the next thing we want to do is we need to make sure that we arrange the collisions. Okay, so we already have it set up. So to organize things, right, we're gonna create a region. So a region called folding right here. So we're gonna say region. We're gonna say, you know, platform movement, like so. And then we say if collision up, right? We go ahead and say, okay, there's a collision up there. What we need to do is we need to change the direction of the platform. So we're gonna say, if we were going up, right, that means that we need to go down. So dir equals 1. Awesome. So we're changing the direction of the platform, and then we go ahead and we do else if collision down, we do the same thing. Dir equals -1, not 1, -1. So again, do not forget to put end region to have this beautiful code folding. Thank you so much, Yo-Yo, for this. And as you can see, the code is going to be a lot more organized. So we have this right now, right? Now this should work. So let's take a look to see what's happening. And it is working just fine. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful. So it's working flawlessly. But again, even though we're colliding, we're not sticking to the platform, right? It's not sticking to it. And as you can see, sadly, the platforms are going right through one another, taking into account also the parent. And that is not good. You're gonna get a bunch of bugs based on that alone. So since that is not good, what we're gonna do is we're gonna head back into the code and see what we can do, what we should do, okay? So right here, if we go up, you can see that we're checking only for the solid object. We need to make another check, right? We need to do another check right here. And we're gonna call this, we're gonna be checking with our parent. So that's gonna be jump through, just wait for the auto completion, boom, right here, and it works just fine. So again, we're gonna copy this. We gotta be very careful with just the wording. We don't want to make that mistake. So we put this here and we change this to plus, of course, plus, beautiful, and that's it. Now we should see a collision with the platforms. We should be colliding with our own platforms. I mean, with the copies of the vertically moving platform, right? Without a problem. And look at that. Now they're colliding with one another. Now they are not colliding. And they're not overlapping with anything. So they're not overlapping with their parent. They're not overlapping with themselves. And now let me just prove that to you right now. Give me 1 second. Let me just drop another instance right in the middle of everything. So right in the middle of this one right here. So we can put this. Let's see where we can put this. We can put it here. Let me just remove this one. And let me move this way. Like so. Okay, so this should be good. Now we can run the game. And you can see right here, we're still falling, and I forgot that we're supposed to be putting it. Let's go back. Let me just do the same thing again, but let me just put it right here so that you can see. Let's run the game. Boom, look at that. So now they check for one another, as you can see. Pretty awesome, right? Yes. Really cool. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted. Now we need to stick to the platform, because if we jump on top of it, we don't stick to it. See that? Okay, let's go back. Let's go back into the code. And now let's take a look at this. Okay, so remember that we did player above equals no one. Now we need to make sure that we use this right here. So we're gonna do, player above that y plus equal, v speed. So now we're making sure that if the player is on top of us, there's a collision, move the player, with us. So move him up and down. So now we run the game. So, okay, if we jump into it, boom. Look at that. It works flawlessly. Isn't that great? So there's not even a jump. So there's no jumpy, anything, nothing. The player stays there and he's doing just fine. I like that. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this tutorial. Okay, so once again, we can drop through the platform. We can jump, no problem whatsoever. We don't have to worry about anything else. We can jump as it's going down, and we can jump, we can fall through it. We can do pretty much anything with it right now. It works flawlessly. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Great. And now, as you can see, the player is not even touching the platform that is above it, right? Because of that check that we made. And that we did, right? That is actually pretty great. Now, this system is not flawless, right? It is flawless in terms of moving the player up and down and interacting with it. But there are a couple of things that we need to talk about, and that is the elephant in the room. So let's just switch the scene. And let's deal with the problem right now. So the problem at the moment is that if the player, by some, for some reason, touches one of these platforms, right, underneath it and right above it at the same time, we're gonna have a problem, and that problem is gonna be the player falling right through the platform. So as you can see, it is working just fine. But here's the problem. Boom, we're fine. Boom, we fell right through it. See that? We fell right through it. And again, we can run the game just to change that outcome. And this is what's happening. See how the player falls when one platform touches him? You can make that a feature if you want to make sure the players don't do that. Make sure that they know that the platforms actually do that. If I mess you up. But again, it works right there. I don't know why it doesn't work on the right. It's weird. It just works with the platform. It's just weird. But again, that's one thing to take into account. And I believe the same thing happens if you touch this other platform. But as you can see, I'm going right through this platform. So there are a bunch of interesting things that happen here. So if they're going right through one another, like if you have, look at that, like that works just fine. And it's gonna pick me up and bring me down. I'm gonna go right through that platform, which is not okay. I should be just staying in that platform, right? But it's fine. Yes. So that is one thing. That's another issue. It's just a minor issue. So just make sure that you don't place your platforms like so. That's the elephant in the room. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, this works just fine. And I hope you guys learned something. I hope this tutorial was actually really interesting and of some use to you. So if you guys liked it, right? If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, favorite, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends, just to help out anybody who would love to make games and they're scratching their head trying to think how to implement something like this. Now you have it. There's going to be a game jam, the Gamemaker 48 game jam. There's going to be this weekend. So I hope to see a bunch of people, just using this. I hope, and if you do, please just hit me up and let me know. Hit me out to Twitter, at Punisher X6. That's my Twitter handle. And yeah, so share this video and spread the love. So I think I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna be sharing this. I'm gonna be sharing a copy of this project in the description down below. Leave a comment, anything. So I'll see you guys later.